The two brothers were completely in sync. With just a single look from Lori, they immediately turned and ran. The boss and his guys were clearly no match for it. If they can buy us some time, so we can make a clean getaway, that's all that matters. My brother and I will thank them for the rest of our lives. But Lori's eyes were filled with nothing but cold indifference. But there are no buts. Didn't the boss say it himself? We're all brothers. If they can die there for our future, then they've died a worthy death. Hearing his brother speak like this, Kent let out a heavy sigh. Kaleni City is right up ahead. Once we make it inside, even an adult black dragon won't be able to touch us, Lori said, looking at the distant city walls. Then let's move. The two quickly rushed out of the forest, running toward the city walls that were now within arm's reach. They saw a large crowd of mercenaries entering the city together, and they instantly breathed a sigh of relief. But as a deafening dragon roar echoed through the air, both of their minds went completely blank. The overwhelming pressure completely paralyzed them. By the time they snapped out of it, it was already too late. Massive wings seemed to block out the entire sky. On the distant city walls, warning sirens began blaring one after another. Kent was frozen in sheer terror, staring up at the adult black dragon in the sky. But Lori reacted quickly. He pulled Hannah out of the net bag, immediately fell to his knees, and pleaded in a trembling, terrified, "Oh, respected mother of black dragons, we didn't mean any offense. Please, calm your anger." The dragon mother didn't reach for Hannah. Instead, she opened her massive, gaping maw and bit down. Amid Lori's desperate screams, she swallowed him alive. Beside him, Kent lunged toward Hannah to grab her, hoping to use her to threaten the dragon. But the black dragoness is incredibly fast. In a split second, Kent doesn't even have time to scream before he's bitten clean in half. Honestly, with just one blast of her acid, both of them would have dissolved into absolute nothing. But the black dragon thoroughly enjoys this brutal way of killing. She completely ignores Hannah, who is still lying at her feet, totally dazed and in shock, and turns her cold gaze toward the distant city walls. By now, the soldiers on the walls of Kaleni City have already descended into utter panic and chaos from sheer hurry. Move, ready the mana cannons. Where are the archers? Faster. Heavy ballistae, prepare to fire. Where are the mages? The black dragoness watches all this with a mocking sneer. Foolish, fragile humans. How could they ever comprehend the power of a true dragon? Spreading her wings, the black dragoness like a supreme ruler overlooking her domain, she looks down upon Kaleni City. To a chromatic dragon, humanoid creatures are nothing more than beasts of burden or mere insects. All wealth in this world belongs to them. Fire. Fire. The commander on the wall panics and shouts orders. The soldiers, their nerves already stretched to their limit, instantly release their bowstrings. A storm of arrows, mixed with several enchanted ballista bolts, shoots toward the black dragoness in the sky. With a powerful flap of her massive wings, she whips up a violent gale. Every single arrow falls harmlessly to the ground, except for a few heavy ballista bolts. But the black dragoness effortlessly snaps those giant bolts with her claws. She then glides over the center of the city, looking down at the streets with a cruel, sadistic smile. A massive cone of burning acid erupts from her maw, rapidly spreading across the sky. It is as if a rain of pure acid has started falling over half of Kaleni City, instantly filling the air with agonizing screams. Help! Somebody help me. Please, anyone, save me. The horrific cries of countless dying soldiers echo through the ruins. Just then, a flash of white light bursts across the sky, and a middle-aged man wearing white mage robes, clutching a magic staff in his hand, flies up toward the black dragon, stopping a short distance. He is none other than the Lord of Kaleni City, Leon, a level 8 light mage. He stares at the scene with a dark, grim expression. Isn't there supposed to be a peace treaty? What kind of crazy stunt is this black dragon pulling? Oh, great black dragon queen. Have you forgotten our agreement? You humans really are so two-faced. How dare the kingdom of Del send someone to steal my child? The black dragon mother bellows in rage. Of course, as to whether that is the real reason she's so angry. Well, who really knows? Oh, great black dragon queen. Where is this accusation coming from? Leon asks in confusion. Then what is this? The black dragon mother points to Hannah, who is standing on the ground looking incredibly goofy, and demands. Looking at Hannah, and the bindings on her that are clearly the work of a professional mercenary group, Leon's face turns incredibly grim. Who on earth was dumb enough to try and steal a dragon? If you're going to steal, then But you just had to go and get caught, and if getting caught wasn't bad enough, you had to let her hunt you down all the— Oh, black dragon queen. This must be misunderstanding. Leon quickly regains his composure. Human, are you insulting the dignity of a great true dragon? The black dragon mother roars. From the skeletal remains behind her, hundreds of creatures crawl out of the forest. There are filthy orcs, disgusting crocodiles, and even a mix of dire wolves, giant pythons, and other beastly things. Watching this unfold from his hiding spot in the bushes nearby, Saron realizes these must be his dragon mother's minions. Man, they really have. But to Leon and the people of Kalyani City, this means the cunning Black Dragon is about to go completely wild. Black Dragon Queen, what kind of price must we pay for you to return to your lair? Even though Leon feels extremely frustrated deep down, he has no choice but to speak up. Foolish humans, who do you think I am? The Black Dragoness said coldly. This immediately gave Leo a massive headache. It looked like they were going to have to pay a pretty steep price this time. Her appetite was definitely not going to be easy to satisfy. These chromatic dragons, who by all rights should have been dead corpses by Saron could actually tell that the Black Dragoness also seemed to be wary of something. She was simply using this situation as an excuse to make a scene and push her own. So, Saron quietly backed away. Whatever happened next was none of his business anyway. Saron didn't head back to the dragon lair. Instead, he walked over to a nearby valley just a short distance away. This was the spot Hannah had mentioned earlier, the place where she wanted to build a nest together with him. Saron had no idea if there were many magical beasts living around here, but he actually really liked the place. There was fresh water, plenty of trees, and the air was filled with a rich, fresh smell of the earth element here was incredibly dense. Saron opened up the magic storage device he'd taken from that earth mage and began to carefully inspect its contents, giving the gold coins a quick count. There were probably over 300 of them, along with dozens of silver coins and a handful of various gemstones. But most importantly, there were several magic scrolls and earth magic books. The texts were written in the continent's common tongue, which was a breeze for a black dragon to read. Under basic earth magic, there was the defensive earth wall and earth spike spells. Then there was the ultimate earth magic, earth spirit binding, as well as the quicksand spell, earth pulse detection, and even the advanced earth magic, earthquake. There was also Mother Earth, a healing spell, and the slow spell, which reduces an enemy's movement speed. Damn, this mage was seriously loaded. Saron felt like he could practically become an earth dragon at this rate. Since he had an affinity for the earth element, learning these shouldn't be too hard for him. He wasn't a native of this world anyway, so he didn't share that typical chromatic dragon habit of looking down on human creation. To a true dragon mastering both magic and physical, they can get incredibly powerful just by letting time pass. So why on earth would they waste time trying to learn magic? I mean, wouldn't that time be much better spent? Still, he decided to start his lessons with the earth spike spell. Following the instructions in the magic book, he began constructing his very first spell model. In his eyes, the glowing particles of earth elements floated around him like a bunch of playful, mischievous kids. As Saron focused his mind and adjusted his thought, the spell model snapped perfectly into place. Boom! More than 30 massive, cone-shaped stone spikes erupted from the ground, putting on an but to Saron, the spell felt a bit underwhelming. For starters, it just took way too long to cast. Against any creature with decent reflexes, it wouldn't pose any real threat at all. But then, an interesting idea popped into Saron's head. He decided to switch gears and try the slow spell. He was actually pretty familiar with this one. That earth-shattering bear had used it on him during their fight, though he had managed to just shrug it off with brute force. Still, there was no denying its sheer power. After all, any magic that messes with gravity is bound to be incredibly dangerous. But constructing a model for the slow spell was a whole different beast compared to the earth spike. It was easily more than twice as complex, which actually took Saron quite a bit of effort to figure out. Slow. Saron cast the spell right on himself. Instantly, a crushing weight slammed down on his body. It was still bearable, but then again, that was only because of his insane durability. For anyone weaker than him, this spell would be an absolute nightmare. To make things better, the slow spell activated almost instantly, several times faster than the earth spike spell. For his next experiment, Saron tried casting both the slow spell and the earth spike spell at the same time. Rumble! The cone-shaped stone spikes tore through the ground once again. But this time, things were different. Under Saron's careful control, the massive stone spikes were gone. Instead, they were replaced by a barrage of spikes, each about 1 meter. There were 3 times as many of them as before, blanketing an area of 20 meters, forming a perfect circle. This is the exact range of my slowness spell. Within this area, no matter what the enemy does, they'll be hit by these earth spikes. Man, I really am a genius. Let's call this move Rupture. Saron remembered that the Terror of the Void, Cho'Gath, had a very similar skill, but there was still room to improve his own version. For instance, he could add something like a Quagmire spell to slow down the enemy even. Saron suddenly realized that creating his own skills was actually pretty fun. But while he was completely absorbed in crafting his very own signature moves, Leo, the Lord of Kalyani City, was absolutely miserable. Inside the city lord's manor, Leo stared at his completely empty vault with a grim expression. To satisfy that damn black dragon's insatiable appetite, he had handed over nearly every coin and treasure he owned. Even the tribute he had meticulously prepared for the king of the Dale Kingdom was gone. I can't let this go on. That black dragon's greed is only growing. He has to be destroyed. A cold determination flashed in Leo's eyes. He quickly penned a letter, sealed it inside a golden envelope. Guards. Yes, my lord. What are your orders? A guard clad in heavy silver armor stepped into the room. Deliver this letter to the capital of Dale and hand it directly to the king. Leo ordered in a low, grim voice. Understood. As he watched the guard depart, Leo let out a cold sneer. There are countless kingdoms across this continent, and while the Dale kingdom might not be the absolute strongest, it is certainly not an army a single black dragon can stand against. This time, he will be wiped out, and once he's dead, all my lost treasures and the tribute I'm sending now will come back to me tenfold. Meanwhile, back in the dragon's lair within the stone, the dragon mother stared at the newly piled mountains of gold. Her eyes shone with pure delight. Those lowly humans actually have some decent treasure after all. Next time, I'll make sure they offer up several times more treasure than this. Otherwise, I'll just eat every last one of them. Yep, that is exactly what I will do. In truth, the black dragon, Lisa, had only just reached she was only 101 years old this year. By human standards, she was just a young girl of 17 or 18. At her age, what other chromatic dragon could possibly have this much treasure? With that thought, the dragoness happily plopped onto her hoard and began rolling around in sheer delight. Meanwhile, outside, Hannah was huddling with Emily, trembling in fear. She had been scooped up in the dragoness's massive talons and tossed right outside the cave the moment they got back. This whole ordeal had been a massive shock to her. After all, she had almost been captured by those humans. Hannah, you were way too careless. If I hadn't risked my own life to wake our sleeping mother, you would have been dragged off by those humans long ago and sliced to pieces. Emily boasted proudly. Click the blue link in the comments section to watch the full version for free. But according to our intel, there might be an adult black dragon lurking in the bone-corroding swamp, Delia said suddenly. An adult black dragon? Look, we're not going there to slay a dragon this time. We won't be heading deep into the swamp. If we just stick to the outskirts, we should be fine, right? Besides, didn't another mercenary group go to the swamp before and make it back completely safe and sound? Soros pondered for a moment before speaking. Boss, I feel like once we get a bit stronger, we can actually go dragon slaying and claim the ultimate glory of becoming true dragon slayers. Lori, the swordsman of the twins, had a golden gleam in his eyes. Lori, never underestimate any dragon. They are way out of our league. Only legendary mercenary groups have what it takes to face a dragon, Soros said gravely. As their captain, he had to be responsible for the entire squad. Otherwise, a single wrong decision could doom them all. Don't worry, boss. I was only joking around. The group made their way into the forest. Meanwhile, Saron had finally completed his evolution. Saron. HP. 120. Feast stacks. 3. Feast. Cooldown. 5 days. Talent 1. Carnivore. You can restore health and energy by slaying enemies. The amount restored is determined by the target's total life energy. Talent 2. Earth Element Affinity. You've gained a powerful talent for earth magic. Well, gaining an earth element affinity isn't too bad. I just wonder how strong this affinity actually is. At this moment, Saron could indeed sense countless earthy yellow specks of light. These elements seemed to float in the air. You have to realize, this was the bone-corroding swamp. Yet, he could sense an immense amount of earth elements here. But according to his inherited memories, there wasn't much information regarding earth magic. After all, he was a black dragon. Besides, true dragons didn't usually bother actively studying magic. They could grow incredibly powerful just by sleeping. Who even needs to train anymore? Saron walked over to the water's edge to check out his reflection. By now, he must be over 4 meters long, and his build was much more massive. He had completely shed the slender build typical of traditional 5-colored dragons. His neck had grown shorter and thicker, while his massive dragon head had grown even larger. The muscle density in his face had packed on significantly, built to support his devastating bite force. The 2 dragon horns on his head looked even more menacing, as if they were ready to pierce the very heavens. Saron had absolutely no doubt about how razor-sharp they were. And right beneath those 2 main horns, 2 smaller horns seemed to be sprouting, curving toward the back of his head. He was looking more and more like Deathwing. No, actually, he was way cooler than Deathwing. Saron admired his reflection with immense self-satisfaction. He felt that if he had to face that earth-shattering bear again, he wouldn't need to rely on any cheap tricks. He could crush it easily in a fight. I wonder how Hannah is doing on her end. Meanwhile, Soros and his group were hiding in the dark, dense underbrush, watching everything unfold outside. The expressions on their faces were incredibly priceless right now. Some showed shock, some showed fear, but above all, there was overwhelming excitement. They never expected that simply tracking the earth-shattering bear would lead them to such a massive discovery, for right before their eyes was a black dragon hatchling. As they watched the completely oblivious hatchling outside, happily feasting on the carcass of the earth-shattering bear. The twin brothers' eyes practically lit up with greed. Captain, we have to stay calm. An earth-shattering bear isn't something a mere hatchling like this could kill. There must be an adult black dragon nearby. We need to get out of here, right now. The female elven archer warned, trying to keep her voice steady. But Captain, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone knows just how incredibly valuable a black dragon hatchling is. This could be our only chance to completely change lives. If we walk away now, we'll regret it for the rest of our days. Laurie's eyes gleamed with greed as he stared at the little black dragon. A hatchling like this is basically a free meal served on a silver platter. If we can just capture it alive, whether we sell it to some royal nobles or raise it ourselves. This means Laurie here will finally become a dragon knight. After all, a dragon's lifespan is on a completely different level compared to a human's. I've heard that some dragon knights get their dragons to cast a life-sharing symbiosis spell. That way, they get to share half of the dragon's massive lifespan, living for hundreds, maybe even thousands. That is the ultimate foundation for building a truly powerful family. Laurie was already daydreaming about riding high on a giant dragon, looking absolutely majestic and unstoppable. A look of deep conflict crossed Soros's face. He looked around at the group. Laurie and his brother were practically beaming with excitement, while Delia's face was written with pure reluctance. As for Bill, he just kept his head down. Let's put it to a vote, everyone. It's only fair that way. Who's in favor of making a move? Soros asked aloud. Laurie and his brother instantly shot their hands up. To the side, Delia clutched her bow tightly, remaining completely quiet. I don't think we should go either. The risk is just too high. I have to think about our... But just as Soros was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Bill, who had been keeping his head down this whole time, suddenly raised his hand. Delia stared at Bill in sheer disbelief. In her mind, Bill was never someone to act so recklessly. Delia boss? I know the value of a candle dragon better than any of you. Laurie is right. We might never get an opportunity like this again in our entire lives. We capture the candle dragon and leave straight away. Nobody will be able to do a damn thing to us, Bill said, emphasizing every single word. Soros struggled internally for a moment, before hardening his resolve. Then let's do it. Meanwhile, Hannah was still happily munching on the flesh of the earth tremor bear. This monster meat hasn't rotted yet, so it doesn't really taste that good. I really should have corroded it with some acid before eating. Hannah thought to herself as she chewed, realizing she probably couldn't finish all of this. Maybe I should bring some back for Emily. Dragon Mom really gave her a beating last time, and she hasn't even recovered from her injuries yet. And besides, I've got to make sure I cling to Saron's coattails from now on. Right at that moment, an arrow shot out from the bushes. Yelp! Hannah let out a sharp cry of pain. Without even looking back to see where the attack came from, she bolted in the direction Saron had gone. Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and 145 stone pillars erupted from the earth, trapping Hannah inside. Delia's precise shot hit Hannah right in the back leg, working perfectly with Bill's earth magic to trap her. They knew that dragon hatchlings couldn't fly yet, so all they had to do was immobilize her. Move, move, move. Soros and his crew rushed out of hiding, and the Lowry brothers threw a massive net right over Hannah. Hannah thrashed and struggled wildly, but that only caused the net to tighten around her. At this, Hannah fell into complete despair. Saron, save me. Help. Knowing exactly how dire her situation was, she screamed out into the surrounding forest. Let's get out of here, fast. Soros and Lowry hoisted Hannah up and hurried away, while Bill and Delia covered their retreat. Hearing the young dragon's tragic cries, Delia felt a sudden pang of Delia. Black dragons are the most cunning and shameless beasts of all. Once this thing grows up, who knows how many innocent people will end up as its next meal? Don't waste your sympathy on it, Bill barked quickly. When Saron returned to the carcass of the earth-splitting bear, he noticed a massive chunk of it was gone. It looked like Hannah had eaten her fill, but then his snout twitched. The scent was off. A dragon's sense of smell is incredibly sharp, and with Saron's massive vitality, his senses were far superior to even an average dragon. Apart from Hannah and the earth-splitting bear, there were other strong, unfamiliar scents lingering in the air. There were also some human footprints left on the ground. Something has happened to Hannah. A dangerous glint flashed in Saron's eyes. Sure, Hannah was a bit of an idiot, but after all, she was still a true... Once she grew up, she would be incredibly powerful. He had fully intended to make her one of his loyal followers, but this place was still several kilometers away from Mother Dragon's cave. By the time he ran back and forth, there'd be no telling where they'd taken her. Still, for these humans to dare trespass into the territory of an adult black dragon, he just didn't know how strong they actually were. What was that? Saron stared warily at a nearby patch of grass. Saron, it's me. Emily. A tiny figure scrambled out from behind the bushes. She stared at Saron in disbelief. This guy had grown again. He was practically 3 or 4 times her size now. We're both hatchlings, so how on earth are you growing so fast? Emily, Hannah has been captured by humans. Hurry up and notify Mother Dragon. I'll go look for Hannah first. Saron could tell from her action that Emily had only just arrived, so he had immediately told her. What? Hannah's been captured by humans? Emily cried out in shock. If you don't hurry, Hannah might never come back. Saron gave her a cold look, spread his wings, and quickly gave chase, following the scent from earlier. Although he couldn't fly yet, his wings allowed him to glide, giving him a significant boost in speed. Emily stared in the direction Saron had gone, then looked down at the monster meat on the ground and grit her teeth before running toward Mother Dragon's cave. The group fled in a desperate panic. Soros felt that this was the absolute craziest thing he had ever done in his life, stealing a hatchling right out of an adult black dragon's territory. Hurry up! They didn't dare rest for even a single second. They all knew exactly how grave the situation was. If an adult black dragon cornered them, you can easily guess what kind of miserable end awaited. As for Hannah, they had already used a massive amount of magic on her, along with powerful and forcing her into a deep, deep slumber. Once we pull this job off, we'll finally be living like kings. The group thought, their resolve absolute. Only Delia's emerald green eyes flickered with worry. Soros and the others had never faced an adult dragon before, but he had personally experienced just how terrifying they could be. That overwhelming, unmatched power. He wouldn't be able to forget it for the rest of his life. He felt that the decision Soros and the others made this time was incredibly foolish. After giving chase for a while, Saron used his incredibly sharp eyesight to finally spot the group. Right now, he was about 500 meters away from them. Under the cover of the dense jungle, they hadn't noticed him at all. Using the appraisal skill from his inherited memories, he quickly assessed their power levels. 1 level 4 Earth Mage, 1 level 5 Warrior, 2 level 4 Warriors, and an Elven Archer. With only that level of strength, they even dared to steal a dragon hatchling from right next to an adult dragon's nest. After carefully weighing the gap in strength between them, one felt like he could take them on. Of course, just to be safe, it would be better to wait for his black dragon, but Saron knew that if his black dragon mother stepped in, then all the loot on these guys wouldn't belong to him anymore. Never underestimate how much dragons obsess over treasure. No matter how much he contributed, his black dragon mother wouldn't give him a single silver coin. Thinking of this, Saron braced himself and prepared to strike. Coincidentally, the group stopped to rest as well. Boss, let's take a quick break. We're almost out of the Stone Valley Forest. We've been running for so long that we're about to collapse. Lori wiped the sweat from his face. Absolutely not. We have to reach Kaleni City as fast as possible. Before Soros could even speak, Delia, standing right beside him. But I'm just so exhausted. And this hatchling is surprisingly heavy. Without realizing it, the group ground to a halt. Bill stepped forward, wanting to say a few words to calm things. A cold, murderous gleam flashed in Saron's eye. This is my chance. In a team fight, you always take out the mage. Like the Grim Reaper itself, he suddenly lunged forward. His massive jaws clamped down violently on Bill's neck and tore into his shoulder. An earthy yellow barrier flared up around Bill to protect him, but against Saron's razor-sharp teeth, it couldn't even last for a single second before shattering into pieces. By the time Soros and the others realized what was happening, it was already too late. Bill's neck and left shoulder were instantly ripped clean off. Warm blood sprayed all over their faces. Bill. No, damn it, they never could have imagined that Bill would be slaughtered so easily by a hatchling that had appeared out of nowhere. Even his defensive magic artifact hadn't done a single thing to protect him. He had been brutally torn apart by the raw power of this hatchling's bite. Soros was the first to react, hoisting the massive shield from his back and slamming it down towards Saron. Delia swiftly drew her bow, firing a rapid barrage of glowing green enchanted arrows at Saron. Nearby, the Lori barged in from both sides, trying to pincer the beast. Saron simply grabbed Bill's corpse in his jaws and hurled it straight at Delia. He was trying to bypass the other three's attacks to go straight for Delia. The mage is down. Now, time to take out the carry. But Soros wasn't about to give him that chance. Fueled by pure rage, he unleashed his entire reserve of silver-white battle aura, putting on a massive burst of speed. He slammed his shield forward, meeting Saron's charge head-on. Boom. Saron collided violently with the massive shield. Soros was sent flying backward from the impact, but Saron didn't budge even a single inch. But this also stopped him in his tracks. You humans, you've got a lot of nerve. Saron spoke in the common tongue of the continent, whether in his past life or this one. This was the very first time Saron had ever taken a life, and he did it by ripping the man's body clean in half with his teeth while he was still alive. Fresh blood was still dripping from the corners, yet he didn't seem to mind the sensation at all. Soros snapped back to his senses, thinking of Bill's gruesome death. His heart was filled with overwhelming grief. Seeing this, Saron shook his head. Then he didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he charged straight at him. His razor-sharp teeth clamped down on Soros's giant shield. With a loud, sickening crunch, a huge chunk of the shield was instantly bitten off by Saron. Saron chewed on it for a moment and swallowed it right down. Not bad. Taste. Soros was utterly shocked. He forced himself to suppress his grief. This monster in front of him, despite looking like a mere hatchling, was definitely not something they could handle. You guys get out of here first. I'll hold him off. Run. But just as Soros looked over to his side, he realized the Lori brothers, at some point, had already run away, taking the dragons. Only Delia was still standing firmly behind him. Laurie Kent. How could you do this? Soros felt absolute despair and fury. He never expected that in their darkest hour, the Lori brothers, whom he treated like his own and would actually abandon their friends. Saron watched the whole thing with a mocking sneer. Never try to test human nature. Delia, you need to run. Now. Soros kept his eyes locked on Saron, on high alert. Soros. Delia opened her mouth to say something, but, just go. Soros charged straight at Saron. None of you are getting away, Saron said coldly. Playing the loyal brothers now, are we? A bit too late for that, don't you? A pathetic bunch of weaklings like you actually dared to hunt a dragon? He immediately unleashed his full power. Tears welled up in Delia's eyes. He drew his bow, fired a few arrows, leapt onto the branches, and fled the scene. Clang, clang. The arrows struck Saron's scales, leaving only faint white marks. One of them managed to pierce the scales of his underbelly, but it was tightly wedged in his muscles, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. Saron grabbed Soros' shield with both claws, and with a powerful squeeze, sent the shield flying away. Soros longsword from his back, and slashed down at Saron. Saron spat a blast of acid, but the battle chi covering Soros' body blocked Saron's acid. Saron then headbutted Soros, sending him flying. Soros quickly regained his balance. Just as Soros was about to charge forward again, he looked down at his chest. A black dragon claw had completely pierced through his body. Blood poured continuously from Soros' mouth as he made a faint, choking gasp. We shouldn't have been so greedy. The light in Soros' eyes gradually faded. His eyes stared at the distant sky, filled with longing. He still had a wish. He had always liked a certain beautiful and quiet elf. You were a true warrior, but we stood on opposing sides. Saron looked down at the fallen Soros. This is a world where the strong devour the weak. If he hadn't had the strength just now, Soros and his people would have captured him without a second thought or killed him on the spot. He would have been enslaved for life and trampled underfoot. Either his dragon blood, his bones would be forged by someone else into some powerful weapon. Whether it was the concrete jungle of his past life or the magical world of his present one, it was always a dog-eat-dog world. Only the fittest survive. If he didn't want to die, then he had to make sure anyone who wanted him dead died first, whether they were humans or any other creature out there. With that thought, Saron stopped overthinking. His resolve was now absolutely rock solid. He walked over to the corpse of the mage, Bill, and began searching his body. But all he found was a broken, jade-like pendant. Saron's eyes fell on a ring on Bill's finger, and he slipped it off. Sending his mental energy inside, he discovered a pocket dimension, about several square meters. Inside, there were all kinds of armor, rare ore, some gold coins, silver coins, and a handful of magic scrolls. This had to be a magical storage device, a storage artifact crafted by spatial mages. This guy Bill must have come from a wealthy or powerful family because his stash was incredibly rich, but now wasn't the time to sort through his loot. Just then, a furious dragon roar echoed throughout the entire cave, shaking the swamp and the neighboring forest. Deep inside the woods, whether they were magical beasts or savage beasts, every single one of them was trembling, and some animals were even scared to death by the sheer pressure of the dragon's aura. Saron knew his black dragon mother was absolutely furious. He quickly hid the storage ring inside his mouth and quietly waited where he was. With a massive black shadow swooping down from the sky, his black dragon mother's colossal figure landed right in front of him. Her 16-meter-long body and the raw, suffocating dragon aura radiating from her was completely overwhelming. Saron, where is Hannah? Looking down at the corpses on the ground, the black dragon. These were the very first words Saron had heard since arriving in this. She was taken by some mercenaries. I fought with everything I had and managed to take down 2 of them. But even then, I couldn't stop Saron. He looked completely exhausted. The idiot black dragon mother was absolutely furious. With a single sweep of her tail, she sent Saron flying. She completely overlooked the fact of how Saron could have possibly killed a level 5 warrior and a level 4 mage. The black dragon mother chanted a tracking spell, blending dragon tongue with magic, and then she took off, flying straight in that direction. Once the black dragon mother was gone, Saron slowly stood back up. She had only been venting her rage, so she hadn't actually put much weight. Meanwhile, the Lori brothers were frantically fleeing with Hannah. Lori, is it really okay for us to just abandon the boss like this? Are they really going to be alright? But according to our intel, there might be an adult black dragon lurking in the bone erosion swamp, Delia said suddenly. An adult black dragon? Look, we're not going there to hunt dragons this time. We won't be heading deep into the bone erosion swamp. If we just stick to the outskirts, we should be fine, right? Besides, haven't other mercenary groups gone into the bone erosion swamp before, and they all made it back in one piece, didn't they? Sora said, after pausing for a moment to think. Hey boss, I feel like once we get a bit stronger, we can actually go dragon hunting. Just think of the ultimate glory of being dragon slayers. Lori, the swordsman of the twins, had a spark of excitement in his eyes. Lori, never underestimate a dragon. They are not something we can handle. Only legendary mercenary groups have what it takes to face a dragon, Soros warned solemnly. As the captain, he had to be responsible for the entire team. Otherwise, one single wrong move could get everyone killed. Don't worry, boss, I was only joking. With that, the group made their way into the forest. Meanwhile, Salong had finally finished his transformation. Salong. Health, 120. Feast stacks, 3. Feast. Cooldown, 5 days. Talent 1. Carnivore. You can restore health and energy by defeating enemies. The amount restored is determined by the enemy's own life energy. Talent 2. Earth Magic Element Affinity. You have gained a powerful talent for Earth Magic. Well, gaining an Earth Magic Element Affinity isn't half bad. I just don't know exactly how strong this affinity is yet. Right now, Salong could indeed sense countless earthy yellow specks of light. The elements seemed to be drifting in the air. Keep in mind, this is the bone erosion swamp. Yet, he could actually sense this much earth element. But looking through his inherited memories, there wasn't much information regarding earth magic. After all, he was a black dragon. Besides, true dragons didn't usually bother actively studying magic. They really reach an incredibly powerful state just by sleeping. Why would anyone even bother training any? Salon walked over to the water's edge to inspect his body. By now, he had to be over 4 meters long, and his build was far more massive. He had completely shed the slender appearance typical of standard chromatic dragons. His neck was now shorter and thicker, and his massive head had grown even larger. The muscles in his face had also packed on incredible density, all to support his devastating bite force. The 2 horns on his head looked even more menacing, as if they were about to pierce the heavens. Salon had absolutely no doubt about just how razor-sharp they were. And right beneath those 2 horns, another pair of tiny horns seemed to be sprouting, curving toward the back of his head. He was looking more and more like Deathwing. Wait, no, he was actually way cooler than Deathwing. Salon admired his reflection, feeling quite pleased with himself. He felt that if he had to face that earth-shattering bear again, he wouldn't need to rely on any tricks or schemes. He could easily overpower it in a head-on fight. I wonder how Hannah is doing on her end. Meanwhile, Soros and his group were hiding in the dark, overgrown bush, watching everything unfold outside. The expressions on their faces were quite a sight to behold right now. There was shock, there was fear, but most of all, there was sheer excitement. They never expected that by simply tracking the earth-shattering bear, they would stumble upon such an incredible discovery. Because right there before them was a black dragon hatchling, staring at the completely oblivious hatchling outside, as it feasted on the carcass of the earth-shattering bear. The twin brothers' eyes practically lit up with greed. Captain, we have to stay calm. An earth-shattering bear is not something a mere hatchling like this could kill, which means there must be an adult black dragon nearby. We need to get out of here right now. The female elf archer said calmly. Captain, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone knows how insanely valuable a black dragon hatchling is. This might be our only chance to completely change our fortunes. If we miss out on this, we'll never get another shot. Lori stared at the little black dragon, his eyes gleaming with excitement. A hatchling like this is practically an easy target handed right to us on a silver platter. If they could just capture it alive, whether they sold it to royal nobles or trained it themselves, then he, Lori, would become a real dragon knight. After all, a dragon's lifespan was incomparable to a human's. He had heard that some dragon knights could cast a life-sharing symbiosis magic with their dragons, allowing them to share half of the dragon's massive lifespan, living for hundreds, even thousands of years. That was the ultimate foundation to build a powerful, lasting family. Lori was already fantasizing about riding on the back of a majestic dragon, looking absolutely glorious and unstoppable. A look of intense struggle flashed across Soros's face. He looked around at the group. Lori and his brother were practically beaming with excitement, while Delia looked completely against the idea. Bill kept his head down, remaining dead silent. Let's put it to a vote. That is the fairest way. Who's in favor of making a move? Soros called out. Lori and his brother immediately raised their hands. Off to the side, Delia clutched her bow tightly, staying completely silent. I don't think we should go either. The risk is just too high. I have to consider. But just as Soros let out a sigh of relief, Bill, who had been keeping his head down the whole time, suddenly raised his hand. Bill? Delia stared at Bill in utter disbelief. As far as she knew, Bill was never the type to be this reckless. Delia, boss, I know the true value of a candle dragon better than anyone here. Lori is right. We might never get another opportunity like this in our entire lives. Once we catch the candle dragon, we'll leave immediately. No one will be able to touch us, Bill said, emphasizing every single word. Soros hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and said, "Fine, let's do it." Meanwhile, Hannah was still happily munching on the flesh of the blazing earth bear. The magical beast meat wasn't rotten, but it still didn't taste very good. She felt it probably would have tasted better if she had dissolved it with a bit of acid first. As she chewed, she realized there was no way she could finish all of this. Maybe I should bring some back for Emily. She took a real beating from Mama Dragon last time, and her injuries still haven't fully healed yet. Plus, we've got to make sure we stay on Saren's good side from now on. Just at that moment, an arrow suddenly shot out from the bushes. Ow! Hannah let out a painful scream. She didn't even stop to see where the attack came from, but instead bolted as fast as she could towards the direction Saron had gone. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble, and 145 stone pillars erupted from the ground, completely trapping Hannah inside. Delia's precise arrow shot straight into Hannah's back leg, working together with Bill's earth magic to keep her trapped. They knew that young hatchlings couldn't fly yet, so all they had to do was take away her ability to move. Hurry! Hurry! Move it! Soros and his men charged out of hiding. The Lorry brothers pulled out a massive net and threw it right over Hannah. Thrashed and struggled wildly, but that only wrapped the net even tighter around her. Hannah was plunged into utter despair. Saron. Saron, please save me. Hannah knew exactly how much danger she was in and desperately screamed into the surrounding woods. Let's get out of here, fast. Soros and Lori hoisted Hannah up and quickly made their escape, while Bill and Delia covered their retreat. Hearing the young dragon's painful cries, Delia felt a sudden pang of Delia. Black dragons are the most cunning and ruthless of all evil dragons. Once this little monster grows up, there's no telling how many innocent people will end up as her dinner. Do not waste your sympathy on her, Bill hissed urgently. When Saron returned to the carcass of the earth-splitting bear, he saw that a huge chunk of it had already been eaten. It looked like Hannah had eaten her fill, but then his snout twitched, something smelled off. A dragon's sense of smell is incredibly sharp, and with Saron's massive vitality stats, his senses far surpassed those of any ordinary dragon. Aside from the scent of Hannah and the earth-splitting bear, there were several other strong, unfamiliar scents lingering in the air. There were also some human footprints left on the ground. Something's happened to Hannah. A dangerous glint flashed in Saron's eyes. Hannah might be a bit of an idiot, but she was still a true dragon after all. Once she grew up, she would be incredibly powerful. He had fully intended to recruit her as part of his future crew. They were still a few kilometers away from Mother Dragon's cave. By the time he ran back and forth, Hannah would be long gone. But since these humans actually dared to trespass into the territory of an adult black dragon, he just didn't know how strong they actually were. What was that? Saron stared warily at a nearby spot. Saron, it's me, Emily. A tiny figure crawled out from behind the bushes. She stared in shock at Saron. The guy had grown again. He was practically 3 or 4 times her size now. We're both wormlings. So how on earth are you growing so fast? Emily. Hannah's been captured by humans. Hurry and go tell Mother Dragon. I'm going after her first. Saron could see Emily had clearly just arrived, so he had immediately blurted out the news. What? Hannah's been captured by humans? Emily cried in shock. If you don't hurry, Hannah might never come back. Saron gave her a cold look, spread his wings, and quickly gave chase, following the scent from earlier. Although he couldn't fly yet, his wings allowed him to glide and boost his speed significantly. Emily watched Saron rush off, then looked down at the magical beast meat on the ground. Clenching her teeth, she turned and ran toward Mother Dragon's. The humans fled in a mad panic. Soros felt like this was the craziest thing he had ever done in his entire life. To actually steal a hatchling right from an adult black dragon's territory. Hurry. The group didn't dare to rest for even a single second. They all knew how incredibly serious this was. If an adult black dragon cornered them, you can easily guess what kind of miserable end awaited. As for Hannah, they had already hit her with a massive dose of magic and heavy sedatives, knocking her completely unconscious. Once we pull this job off, we'll be living like kings. This thought kept their resolve rock solid. Only Delia's emerald eyes flickered with deep worry. Soros and the others had never faced a fully grown dragon, but he had personally experienced the sheer terror of an adult dragon. That kind of overwhelming, unstoppable was something he would never forget for the rest. He felt that the decision Soros and the others made this time was incredibly foolish. After pursuing them for a while, Saron, using his extraordinarily sharp vision, finally spotted the group. Right now, he was about over 500 meters away from them. Under the thick cover of the jungle, they had absolutely no idea he was there. Using the appraisal spell from his inherited memories, he quickly gauged their power levels. A level 4 Earth Mage, a level 5 Warrior, 2 level 4 Warriors, and an Elven Archer. With that pathetic level of strength, stealing a baby dragon right next to an adult dragon's nest, they must have a death wish. After carefully weighing the difference in their strength, Saron figured he could actually take them on. Granted, just to be safe, It would be wiser to wait for his black dragon, but Saron knew all too well that if his mother stepped in, all the loot on these guys wouldn't belong to him anymore. Never underestimate a dragon's sheer obsession with treasure. No matter how much he helped, his mother wouldn't spare him a single silver coin. With that in mind, Saron braced himself to strike. Coincidentally, the group came to a halt. Boss, let's take a quick breather. We're almost out of the Stone Valley Forest anyway. We've been running flat out for so long, we're running on fumes. Lori wiped the sweat off his face, but the boss snapped, "No way. We have to reach Kareni City as fast as possible." Before Soros could even speak, Delia, who was standing right next to him, blurted, "But I'm just so exhausted. And this dragon hatchling is seriously heavy." Without realizing it, the group ground to a halt. Bill stepped forward, hoping to ease the tension with a few words. A cold, murderous glint flashed in Saron's eye. His golden opportunity had arrived. In a team fight, you always take out the mage first. Like the Grim Reaper himself, he suddenly lunged forward. His massive, draconic clamped down hard right on Bill's neck and his shoulder. An earthy yellow light flared up around Bill, forming a protective barrier. But under the crushing force of Saron's razor-sharp teeth, it couldn't even last 1 second before completely shattering. By the time Soros and the others could even react, it was already too late. Bill's neck and left shoulder were instantly ripped away, completely gone. Warm, crimson blood sprayed across everyone's face. Bill, damn it, they never could have imagined that Bill would be slaughtered so easily by a random hatchling that appeared out of nowhere. Even his defensive magical artifact didn't do a single thing to protect him. It was crushed to pieces by the hatchling's bare teeth. Soros was the first to react, hoisting the massive shield from his back and slamming it down towards Saron. Delia quickly drew her bow, unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of glowing green enchanted arrows at Saron. Nearby, the Lori brothers closed in from both sides, initiating a pincer attack on the beast. Saron clamped his jaws tighter on Bill's corpse and flung the lifeless body straight at. He was trying to bypass the other 3 attackers entirely, putting his sights dead on Delia. The mage is down. Next up, time to dive the ADC. But Soros wasn't about to give Saron that chance. Consumed by pure rage, he unleashed all the silver-white battle chi coursing through his body, pushing his speed to the absolute. He thrust his shield forward, intercepting Saron's charge head-on. Boom! Saron's massive body slammed violently against the colossal shield. The impact sent Soros flying backward, but Saron didn't budge even a single inch. But this was enough to halt him in his tracks. "You humans have some nerve." Saron spoke in the continent's common tongue. Whether in his past life or his current one, this was Saron's very first time taking a life, and he had done it by literally ripping the man in half with his teeth. With fresh blood still dripping from the corner, he didn't seem to mind the feeling at all. Soros finally shook himself back to his senses. Thinking of Bill's horrific, mangled state, his heart swelled with overwhelming grief. Seeing this, Saron simply shook his head. In that case, just die. He didn't even bother to dodge. Instead, he charged straight at them head-on. His razor-sharp teeth clamped right down on Soros's shield. With a loud, sickening crack, Saron tore a massive chunk right off the shield. Saron chewed on it for a moment and swallowed it whole. "Tastes pretty good." Soros was utterly horrified. Forcing down his grief, he realized that this monster, which looked like a mere hatchling, was absolutely not something they could handle. "You guys, get out of here. I'll cover the rear. Run." But just as Soros looked to his side, he realized the Lori brothers at some unknown point had already fled with their dragon-slaying weapon. Only Delia still stood behind him. "Lori Kent, how could you do this?" Soros was completely consumed by grief and fury. He never expected that, in their moment of greatest danger, the Lori brothers, whom he regarded as his own flesh and would actually abandon their friends. Saron watched this play out with a mocking gaze. "Never try to test human nature, Delia. You should run, too." Soros stared warily at Saron. "Soros." Delia wanted to say something, but just run. Soros charged straight at Saron. "None of you are getting away," Saron said coldly. "Playing the loyal comrades now, are we? Where was this devotion earlier? To think a couple of weaklings like you actually dared to poach a dragon." He unleashed his full, terrifying power. Tears welled up in Delia's eyes. She drew her bow and fired off a few arrows. Then, she leaped onto the and fled. Ping. Ping. The arrows struck Saron's scales, leaving nothing but faint white marks. One of them managed to lodge itself in his belly, but Saron's dense muscles clamped down on it, stopping it so completely that not. Saron grabbed Soros's shield with both claws. With a powerful squeeze, he crushed the shield and sent it flying. Soros drew a long sword from his back and slashed down at Saron. Saron spat a blast of burning acid, but the battle aura shrouding Soros's body managed to block it. But Saron immediately followed up with a brutal headbutt, sending Soros flying. Soros quickly regained his footing, but just as Soros was about to charge forward again, he looked down at his chest. A massive black dragon claw had pierced straight through his body. Blood poured from Soros's mouth as he made a raspy, gurgling sound. We shouldn't have been so greedy. The light in his eyes slowly faded. He looked up at the distant sky, his eyes filled with a deep, lingering regret. He still had one final wish. He had always loved a certain beautiful, quiet elf. You were a true warrior, but we stand on opposite sides, Saron said, looking down at the fallen Soros. This was a world where the strong devoured the weak. If Saron hadn't possessed enough strength just now, Soros and his companions wouldn't have hesitated to capture him, or even kill him on the spot. Otherwise, he would have been enslaved for the rest of and trampled under their feet. Either his dragon blood and scales, or his bones would be forged by someone else into some powerful weapon. Whether it was the concrete jungle of his past life or the magical world of his present one, they both run on the law of the jungle. It is survival of the fittest. If he didn't want to die, then he had to make sure the ones who wanted him dead died instead. It didn't matter if they were humans or any other creatures. With that thought, Saron stopped overthinking. His mind was now completely resolute. He walked toward the corpse of the mage, Bill, and began searching through his belongings. But all he found was a broken piece of a jade-like pendant. Saron looked at the ring on Bill's finger, slipped it off, and projected his mental energy inside. There he discovered a small space of just a few square meters. Inside were various pieces of armors, along with some gold coins, silver coins, and some magic scrolls. It seemed this was a magical storage device, a storage tool forged by space mages. This Bill guy must have come from quite an extraordinary background. The loot inside was pretty impressive, but now was not the time to sort through it. Just then, a furious dragon roar echoed through the entire cavern, the swamp, and the neighboring forest. Deep inside the forest, whether they were magical beasts or ferocious wild beasts, every single one of them was trembling in fear. Some animals were even scared to death by the sheer pressure of the dragon's aura. Saron knew his black dragon mother was furious. He quickly hid the magical storage device inside his mouth and quietly waited right where he was. As a massive black figure plummeted from the sky, his mother's colossal form appeared right before him. Her 16-meter-long body and the suffocating dragon aura she unleashed without restraint was incredibly overwhelming. Saron, Hannah. The black dragon mother looked down at the corpse and spoke for the first time since Saron had arrived in this world. The very first sentence he heard her say, she was taken away by some mercenaries. I fought with everything I had and managed to kill two, but I still couldn't stop Saron. He looked like he was struggling immensely. The foolish black dragon mother was absolutely furious. She sent Saron flying with a single swipe of her tail. She even completely overlooked how Saron could possibly kill a level 5 warrior and a level 4 mage. After the black dragon mother cast a tracking spell with her dragon magic, she immediately took off in that direction. Saron stood up after the black dragon mother left. The black dragon mother was only venting her anger and hadn't actually hit him that hard. Meanwhile, the Lowry brothers were fleeing frantically with Hannah. Lowry, is it really okay for us to abandon the boss like this? Are they really going to be okay? The two brothers were perfectly in sync. With just a single look from Lowry, they immediately made a run for it. The boss and the others are clearly no match, but if they can buy us a little time and let us escape safely, that's all that matters. My brother and I will be grateful to them for the rest of our lives. Lowry's eyes were filled with nothing but cold indifference. But nothing. But didn't the boss say, we're all brothers? If they can die there for our future, then they've died for a worthy cause. Hearing his younger brother speak so coldly, Kent let out a heavy sigh. Kelani City is just ahead. Once we make it inside, even a fully grown black dragon won't be able to touch us, Lowry said, staring at the distant city walls. Then hurry. The two quickly dashed out of the forest, sprinting toward the city walls that were now within their reach. Seeing the crowd of mercenaries entering the city ahead of them, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. But as a deafening dragon roar suddenly echoed through the sky, both of their minds went completely blank. The overwhelming dragon pressure completely paralyzed them with fear. By the time they snapped out of it, it was already too late. Massive wings seemed to block out the entire sky. Atop the distant city walls, alarms began to blare one after another. Kent stared up at the adult black dragon, completely frozen in terror. But Lowry reacted quickly. He pulled Hannah out of the net bag, fell to his knees, and stammered in absolute terror, "Oh, mighty mother of black dragons. We didn't mean to offend you. Please, spare us your wrath." But the black dragon mother didn't reach for Hannah. Instead, she opened her massive, gaping maw and lunged. Amid Lowry's desperate screams, she swallowed him whole and alive. Witnessing this, Kent scrambled toward Hannah to grab her, hoping to use her to threaten but the black dragoness is blindingly fast. In an instant, Kent doesn't even have time to scream before he's snapped clean in half. Honestly, with just one blast of her acid, neither of them would have had bones left. But the black dragoness thoroughly enjoys this brutal way of killing. She completely ignores Hannah, who's lying at her feet in utter shock, and shifts her gaze toward the city walls in the distance. By now, the soldiers on the walls of Kelani have already degenerated into absolute panic chaos. Hurry, hurry. Get the magic crystal cannons ready. Where are the archers? Move it. Prepare the scorpion ballistas for firing. Where are the mages? The Black Dragoness watches all of this with a mocking sneer. Foolish, fragile humans. How could they ever comprehend the true power of a dragon? The Black Dragoness takes to the skies. Like a mighty ruler overlooking her domain, she looks down upon the city of Kaleni. In the eyes of chromatic dragons, humanoids are nothing but beasts of burden or mere insects. And so, all the wealth of this world belongs to them. Fire. Fire. Seeing this, the commander on the city wall frantically bellows his orders. The soldiers, their nerves already stretched to the breaking point, instantly release their bowstrings. A torrential rain of arrows, mixed with several enchanted scorpion bolts, soars toward the Black Dragoness in the sky. With a violent flap of her wings, she conjures a massive gale, knocking down every single arrow except for the heavy scorpion bolts. With a casual swipe, the Black Dragoness snaps those scorpion bolts like twigs. She then glides directly over the city, looking down at the streets below with a cruel, sadistic smile. A massive cone of corrosive acid erupts from her maw, spreading rapidly across the sky. Half of Kaleni is suddenly drenched in a horrific downpour of acid, instantly turning the streets into a screaming hell. Ah! Help me. Someone, please, help me. The curdling shrieks of countless soldiers echo through the air. Just then, a flash of pure white light pierces through the chaos. A middle-aged man clad in pristine white mage robes, holding a staff, flies up to face the Black Dragon, stopping just a short. He was none other than the Lord of Kaleni City, Leon, a level 8 light mage. Right now, he was watching this scene unfold with a grim expression. Isn't there a peace treaty in place? What kind of madness is this Black Dragon pulling now? Great Black Dragon Queen, have you forgotten our agreement? You humans really say one thing to our faces and do another behind our backs. How dare the kingdom of Del send someone to steal my child? The Black Dragon Mother roared in anger. Of course, whether that was the real reason she was so angry, well, nobody really knew. Great Black Dragon Queen, what is the meaning of this? Dio asked in confusion. Then what is this? The Black Dragon Mother pointed at Hannah, who was lying on the ground looking like a total idiot, and demanded. Looking at Hannah's body, which clearly bore the professional touch of a mercenary group, Leo's expression grew grim. Which idiot tried to steal a baby dragon? If you're going to freaking steal it, how did you manage to get caught? And even if you got caught, how did you let her track you down? Black Dragon Queen, this must be a misunderstanding. Dio quickly composed himself and said, Human, are you insulting a great true dragon? The Black Dragon Mother roared. Along with the piles of bones behind her, hundreds of creatures began crawling out of the forest. There were filthy orcs, disgusting crocodiles, and even a mix of dire wolves, giant pythons, and other creatures of that sort. Watching this from his hiding spot in the bushes far away, Saron knew these must be the Black Dragon Mother's minions. Talk about having no style. But to Leo and the people of Kaleni City, this meant the cunning Black Dragon was about to go wild. Black Dragon Queen, what price must we pay for you to return? Even though Leo felt miserable inside, he had no choice but to bring up those stupid humans. Who on earth do you think I am? The female Black Dragon growled coldly. This immediately gave Leo a massive headache. It looked like he was going to have to pay a steep price this time. Her appetite was notoriously hard to satisfy. These chromatic dragons, who really should have been nothing but corpses by now. Saron, however, could tell even the female Black Dragon seemed to be wary of something. She was just using this whole situation as an excuse to make a scene. He quietly backed away. Whatever happened next was none of his business. Saron didn't head back to the dragon lair. Instead, he made his way to a nearby valley just a short distance away. This was the spot Hannah had mentioned before, the place where she wanted to build a nest with him. Saron had no idea if there were many magical beasts in the area, but he really liked this place. It had flowing water and lush trees, and the air was thick with the scent of rich soil. The earth element here was incredibly dense. He opened the magical artifact he'd taken from that earth mage, and began carefully sorting through the contents. After a quick count of the gold coins, there were easily over 300 of them. There were also dozens of silver coins, along with a handful of gemstones. But most importantly, there were several magic scrolls and earth magic books. The text was written in the common tongue of the continent, which was a breeze for a black dragon like him to read. There was basic earth magic, featuring defensive earth wall spells and earth spikes. Then, the ultimate earth magic, Earthen Bind, along with Quagmire, Earth Pulse Detection, the advanced earth spell Earthquake, and a restorative spell called Mother Earth's Grace, alongside Slow, which drastically reduced an enemy's movement speed. Wow, talk about that mage was absolutely loaded. Saron felt like he could practically become an earth dragon at this rate. He already had a strong affinity for the earth element, so learning these spells shouldn't be too hard. After all, he wasn't some narrow-minded native of the other chromatic dragons might look down on human magic, but to him, a real dragon should master both. They can grow incredibly powerful just by letting time pass. Why on earth would they waste time trying to learn magic anyway? Wouldn't they be much better off using that time to sleep? He decided to start by learning the Earth Spike spell. Following the instructions in the grimoire, he began to construct his own spell model. From his perspective, the glowing specks of Earth energy gathered around him like a bunch of playful little kids. As Saron channeled his mental energy, the spell model was quickly constructed. Boom! Boom! More than 30 massive, cone-shaped spikes erupted from the ground, making for an absolutely but to Saron, the spell felt rather underwhelming. First of all, the casting speed was way too slow. For creatures with quick reflexes, it wouldn't pose any threat at all. Still, an idea suddenly sparked in Saron's mind. He decided to shift his focus to the slow spell. He was no stranger to this magic. The earth-splitting bear had used it against him before, and he had only managed to push through it with sheer brute strength. But there was no denying its power was extraordinary. After all, any magic related to gravity is never simple. Compared to Earth Spike, constructing the spell model for slow was more than twice as complex. It took Saron quite a bit of effort. Slow. Saron cast the slow spell on himself. Instantly, a heavy, crushing pressure weighed down on his body, still bearable. But that was only because it was him. If it were cast on someone weaker, it would be an absolute nightmare. The activation speed of the slow spell was incredibly fast, several times faster than Earth Spike. Next, Saron tried casting both slow and Earth Spike at the same time. Rumble! The cone-shaped Earth spikes burst through the ground once again. But this time, things were different. Under Saron's deliberate control, the massive spikes were much fewer. Instead, they had transformed into numerous sharp spikes, each about him. There were 3 times as many of them now, and they covered an area of 20 meters, forming a perfect circle. And this happens to be the exact area covered by my slow spell. Within this zone, no matter what the enemy tries to do, they are bound to get hit by these earth spikes. Man, I really am a genius. Let's call this move Rupture. Saron recalls that Cho'Gath, the terror of the void, had a skill very similar to this, but there is still plenty of room to improve my version. For example, what if I add a spell to slow down the enemies? Saron suddenly realizes that creating his own skills is actually incredibly fun. But while he is totally absorbed in creating his very own signature moves, Leo, the Lord of Kaleni City, is having a miserable time. Inside the Lord's mansion right now, Leo is staring at his completely empty treasury, his face twisted in anger, just to satisfy the insatiable appetite of that damn black dragon. He had to hand over almost every single coin and treasure he owned. This even included the rare treasures that were prepared as tribute for the King of Del. I can't let things go on like this. That black dragon's greed is getting completely out of hand. I have to get rid of him. A cold, decisive look flashes in Leo's eyes. He quickly pens a letter and seals it inside a golden envelope. Guards, what are your orders, Lord? Asks a guard clad in heavy silver armor as he steps into the room. Deliver this letter straight to the capital of Del and hand it to the king in person. Leo demands in a low, grim, understood. Watching the guard's departing figure, Leo lets out a cold, wicked. There are countless kingdoms on this continent. Sure, the kingdom of Del might not be the absolute, but it's still way more than a single black dragon can handle. This time, he is going down for good. That way, not only will I get all my treasures back, but they will return to me tenfold. Meanwhile, back in the dragon's lair within the rocky valley, the female black dragon is looking at her rapidly growing pile of treasure with her eyes sparkled with pure joy. These lowly humans actually have some decent treasure after all. Next time, I'll make sure they offer up several times more treasure than this. Or else, I'll just eat every last one of them. Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. In truth, Lisa the black dragon had only just reached adulthood. She was only 101 years old. In human years, that made her a young girl of about 17 or 18. At her age, what other chromatic dragon could possibly have as much treasure as she did? At that thought, Dragon Lady rolled around happily on her pile of gold, completely satisfied. Meanwhile, Hannah was trembling with fear as she huddled next to Emily. She had been scooped up in the black dragon's massive claw and tossed right outside the cave entrance when they got back. This entire ordeal had been a massive shock to her. After all, she had almost been captured by those humans. Hannah, you were way too careless. If I hadn't risked my life to wake up our sleeping mother, you would have been dragged off by those humans long ago and ended up skinned and chopped to pieces. Emily boasted proudly.